Yo, what's up, diggity dogs? Give me a high five to commemorate how tomorrow we're finally going to get the conclusion to the Loki saga and the new MCU thing. We're going to be doing it. You know, it. Ranking all of the MCU villains up until Black Widow. I mean, this is right in between me seeing Black Widow and me finally seeing the conclusion of Loki, which is going to be the conclusion of MCU content for a while. So I decided to commemorate by ranking all of the major all of the noteworthy MCU villains. From Iron Man 2008 to Black Widow 2021, an entire history of MCU content. So let's start. Georges Batroc, B tier. I feel like he was just some dumb muscle that showed up in the prologue of Winter Soldier. He vanished, and then they just had him show up again in Falcon and the Winter Soldier again to go, hey, remember when that happened? And they unceremoniously killed him off. Not the best villain, but he's really just more of a, doesn't really contribute that much. Hamlet Zemo, S tier character. He goes from the actually only A tier because in Civil War he's just trying to contrivedly trying to turn the Avengers against each other, and therefore dooming the world just out of a petty rivalry of sorts. But ultimately he S tier because of his amazing role in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. How he manages to be both a dashing, sarcastic villain with meme potential as well as an intimidating threat. But it's very clear they put him on the raft just so they could use him again later on. Eric Killmonger, Michael B. Jordan killed in this role. My science teacher in junior year high school sympathized with him. He was a good antagonist, really good point. Colonialism is really bad. This guy isn't nearly as bad as that, but he is a very good villain, very compelling, very good counterpart to our main character, Rip Chadwick Boseman. Okay, this guy from Iron Man, I am someone who says that the early MCU movies were criminally underrated. But, one thing I will concede is that the early villains were kind of very forgettable. This guy, I feel given that this came out in, he was sort of very clearly trying to, commentate on the era, the War on Terror that the movie was set in. Was released during, but ultimately he just doesn't, very forgettable villain, really, but looking back, seeing as they go from fighting a generic Middle Eastern terrorist to fighting, entire cosmic threats really helps put the series into scale. Abomination, glad he's coming back for Shang-Chi, but he's easily one of the more dull villains. He's literally just a big, scarier version of our main guy, of the Hulk, so there's that. Plus, this was literally the only MCU version of the movie released by Universal. And, I think, Incredible Hulk, we always, rag on about how bad, The Dark World is, but, the fact that they literally outright forget Incredible Hulk just speaks volumes. Agatha Harkness, beneath her her snarky personality, amusing villain song, and all of her theatrics, do you know what she contributes to the plot? Jack squat. And, the brainwashing thing, they're basically, just like with, Zemo, they're just putting her on ice for later. Putting her, stuffing her in the fridge to have, as, breakfast leftovers or something. But ultimately, an amusing villain, the plot twist was, we all knew about the plot twist, seeing as we're using common sense, by episode 1. So it's not really as effective as they expected it to be, we weren't going in blind. But okay, otherwise she was amusing while it lasted, and, the last fight scene was kind of underwhelmingly generic, in terms of the MCU, so there's that. Alexander Pierce, B tier. I feel the two, main types of mediocre MCU villains, the bad ones, that we all, we always say the MCU has lackluster villains, but I think the, Winter Soldier best exemplifies this. It's either an old guy in a business suit incapable of fighting who just, has this big evil plan, or it's just some dumb muscle for the heroes to fight. Alexander Pierce is definitely the former. I mean, Robert Redford does a good performance, but ultimately I feel like he doesn't really get that much development. Like, we just see that he's a Hydra, like, calling all the shots, but he doesn't really have that much of a role in the movie. And the funny thing is, I have like, looking at the poster, like, all the other guys are, like, in these army suits doing badass poses, but he's, like, just casually walking away from an explosion in his multiple-piece suit or something. And also, his cameo in Endgame really helped tie the series together. Curse, I mean, Thor the Dark World, like, he's another one of those dumb muscle villains who doesn't really contribute much to the plot. And, like, he was just there for the fight scene and to fake kill off Loki, and that's a moderately cool design. I also have no idea how to pronounce the actor's name. He's a good enough actor. Taskmaster, D tier, I mean... The comic book Taskmaster is one of the coolest characters in the MCU, having this natural reflex ability, super serum, being a extremely entertaining personality, like a counterpart to Deadpool, and super menacing presence. And what are they in the movie? Nothing but a faceless, emotionless, personalityless monster that just chases after the heroes that they need and just slows them down. And they're literally just a clone of Bucky, being a character from. Being someone from the character's past, and that just shows up for an "I know you're in there" fight, and it's really doesn't. And they'll down to having the final fight taking place on a collapsing sky base, which just adds insult to injury. And if you're wondering why they got rid of the skull mask, it was because that would have made it a lot harder to market in China due to like cultural taboos. I can understand that. Ulysses Claw. What is love, baby? Don't put me lower than S. I mean, that guy was one of the most Black Panther has a ton of great moments in it, but that guy is just with like the icing on the cake. Very ironic that in the MCU, with all the crazy creatures there are, Circus didn't play like a CGI guy. He just played like an entertaining British guy. And followed by another unentertaining Brititic guy, Dreykov. I mean, I feel like he's a better character than... I mean, I saw Black Widow. This guy, he's basically, like I seeing as this guy was the dumb muscle villain, like, and this was the mastermind, this guy filled the same role. He's literally just an old guy in an office pulling the strings, who just sits on his throne, taunting the heroes, and then he gets unceremoniously killed off. But this guy gets in B tier because he's played by Ray Winstone, aka Beowulf! Hella A tier. I mean, like, I feel like they underutilized the fact that they were she was Thor and Loki's sibling, but otherwise she was genuinely entertaining, a good threat, a strong presence. I mean, like, I feel like they wasted too much time on Sekar, seeing it has nothing to do, didn't have that much to do with the Asgard plotline, but she was entertaining. Big enough threat while she lasted, and really hoping she comes back, apparently. Hopefully. Jan Rog, we all hated Black Widow, that guy, and Jude Law, he was criminally underdeveloped as an antagonist. I mean, like, he was the only, like, Kree guy. And I love how we're supposed to have the Kree as the bad guys, and they just add in a human there, just like because they're too lazy for special effects. And also, if you want a good incarnation of Taskmaster, you should play the Spider-Man 2018 video game. I actually didn't play it, but I know they had Futaba voicing the Black Cat woman, that's good enough. Crossbones, I mean... Same issue. It's the same issue with Batroc. I mean, slightly better than Batroc because he has a cool design, and that appears in the movie. But also because also he had a good cameo in Endgame. And like I said, he's just another dumb muscle villain who's there to just there for a fight scene. But he does, within Civil War in the prologue, he does, contribute, with that scene with Lagos for when you make a mistake you didn't mean to. Also those Lagos brand towels that guy helped advertise. Really wish I had some of those 5 minutes ago, but I had to use my hands instead. Wiping. I don't know that guy. Just gonna put them in the IDK. Rename this IDK. Thunderbolt Ross, B tier. I feel like this. First off, I have no idea why they build him as being in Black Widow. He's literally there for 10 seconds at the beginning and 10 seconds at the end. Does nothing in the film whatsoever. They even stole the scene thing from Mission Impossible. And I feel like this guy serves no other role than being an obstructive government bureaucrat who's just there to say government bad. Guy Pearce / Aldrich Killian. I'm just so bitter about the Mandarin. Wait, is the Mandarin on this? Oh, yeah, he is. But the Mandarin plot twist and AIM was underutilized, and they just turned this guy into a firebender, like shouting, "I am the Mandarin." Not really that good. Ava Star / Ghost. The only spooky thing about this is how they thought that this was a good enough incarnation of Ghost. I mean, I'm putting it in C tier because of disappointment. I mean, I thought I couldn't tell Task and Ghostmaster. Task and Ghost. Did I actually just say Task and Ghost? But like I remember them Ghost from the Iron Man Armored Adventures cartoon, which is another great MCU Marvel cartoon that you guys should check out with Ocean Dubbing Group. That incarnation was great, voiced by Michael Dobson. This is just so disappointing that I'm just putting it in C tier. Kurt Russell, B tier. I mean, great family drama. I mean, it starts out as this huge. I mean, the parent missing parent stories have been done to death, and like having them turn out to be a jerk is one of the cliche options. But they do it well, seeing as it's slowly revealed, and he turns out to be far more terrifying than anyone thought. This is just another dumb muscle villain. I mean, they advertise that they're giving him more development in Captain Marvel, but he really doesn't do anything there. So B tier. B tier because Jimon Honsu really sells himself in the performance. I feel like I just realized that Maronin the Accuser and Malekith are the same villain. They're just some guy trying to use an Infinity Stone to destroy a planet they like, with an African American sidekick and a spaceship that's just a giant black rock with a glowing center. I mean, yeah. They're basically just the same dull villain, like, with a generic army. Director Hayward, S tier. Had none of anyone's shit. Was having none of anyone's shit, S tier. This guy, I remember, Mickey Rourke, Whiplash. I feel like this is high. B tier because he doesn't really do anything that memorable, but I feel like he was a good example of trying to like bring a comic book villain to the big screen. Just seeing like him, the thing dissolve away as he summoned his whips really like showed how where the wait, did I just hear the MCU's going? Continuing or something like that. And I remember how it was a huge part of the advertising. Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. I'm gonna be honest, I had no idea who Mysterio was, and I did not see that plot twist coming. A tier simply because that really caught me off guard. I mean, you'd think they were fighting an actual cosmic threat, but it was just special effects. And I saw a video essay explaining how these big bombastic things don't really help you in the thing, are really just a distraction from the interpersonal high school drama. So A tier. Justin Hammer, A tier. Sam Rockwell is a great actor. Jojo Rabbit, one of the best movies of 2019. But actually, this, like I said, the bad MCU villains are usually split between a guy in a business suit pulling actually B tier. With, like I said, the biggest problem about MCU villains is when they're split between a dumb muscle for the heroes to fight and a guy in a business suit who pulling the strings, who spouts some vague motivations before being unceremoniously killed off. Carly Morgenthau. I love how they turned this villain and just added they turned this old white guy to a mixed young woman, and they just added the letter I. Now it's Carl E. Morgenthau. And I love how this character, the problem with this character is that it's a terrorist in virtually every definition you could say. like, I mean, she's says she has a good cause, but she's literally just a terrorist. There's no going around it. But I love how the story really, it's really forced how the story tries to sympathize with her, like with her flat out asking, is it justified for her to do this? Like, and like when she gets killed off, like, and they're extremely dramatic about it. Ultimately, and like she's literally just Enfys Nest from Star Wars. I mean, it was already forgettable enough, and so they're just recycling the characters for Disney Plus. Monkey D. Laufey. Fun fact: this movie came out before. I mean, like, I feel like a B tier because he's slightly above the other generic villains, but and this actually came out before Game of Thrones. Dun 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 dun. So B tier because, and I love how willing Loki was to kill him off. Really wish he got some mention in Loki or something, but no mention. And also I played Assassin's Creed Valhalla, so I see he has some basis in Norse stories. Taserface, B tier. He's better than the other dumb muscle villains because he has sort of his own motivations, and I feel like they rely too. But B tier because they rely too much on the dumb name joke, and like But I also liked how he added another layer of like, oh, they're fighting these Nebula, they're fighting off these the Sovereign Aliens or whatever they're called. And they're fighting off the Mutineers, and they're fighting off Ego. Really helps, and it's all connected somehow. Malekith, C tier. We all hated this guy. He's one of the most generic villains. He's literally just a big gray villain who's after the MacGuffin with his horde of minions. Most people would call him the worst villain in the MCU, but like in later day, I think he's just the most noteworthy, unforgettable villains. He's the Zeitgeist of bad MCU villains. Trevor Slattery, D tier. We all hated the plot twist. Ben Kingsley's a good actor, and I understand that the Mandarin is sort of problematic nowadays, and by that they mean hard to market to Chinese audiences, more importantly to Disney. So I can't blame them for this being such a bad villain. Yes I can. It was an awful plot twist. Like, Mandarin, one of the best villains, they ruined it. Really hoping Shang-Chi does it better. Bucky, I really don't think that counts as a villain. I mean, actually A tier for when he was a villain, but he's literally only a villain for 1.5 movies and is a good guy in everything other than that. So A tier for when he is on screen. And I think that was a powerful ending scene at the end of Winter Soldier. Obadiah Stane, I feel like this guy, the movies completely forgot about this guy after he died. And, I mean, he was the first MCU villain, but he really set the bar. I mean, he set the bar pretty low, and, he was just a prologue to bad MCU villains. Thanos! Dun! 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 I mean, S tier because he has to be one of the most triumphant villains in cinematic history. None of them both in terms of, like, the meta-narrative, like, in terms of in terms of box office stopping, but in terms of raw success, he managed to be the main villain of a 19-film saga, and also win by wiping out half the universe, and manages to cross time to do it all again. Thanos earned his place as an S tier villain. Red Skull, this is one of my favorite MCU villains simply because he's just a flat-out, unambiguous Nazi. And what I loved about the first Avenger, why it's my favorite MCU villain, is that it's just a good old-fashioned film about punching Nazis. And also, I'm really and you shouldn't have seen me gushing when I saw him come back in Infinity War. I mean, like, I was flat out gushing in the theater to my dad, well, quietly, of course. But he really serves as a good, like, counterpoint to Steve Rogers and as a good part of the film's message. Ronan the Accuser, B tier. I feel like Lee Pace's most people would put him as one of the worst villains, but me, like, I feel like he serves as a good contrast to our quirky band of misfits, and also because I think that Lee Pace's hamminess also adds a layer to it. I mean, he could be genuinely, like, entertainingly serious at times, but also you can genuinely take him seriously, with, especially when he finally does attach, like, the stone to his hammer. Yellow Jacket, this is my most hated, character in the MCU. Like, I mean, think he's a good character, but he's a genuinely despicable one at that. Especially, like, trying to kill the guy's, kill Paul Rudd's daughter just out of pettiness. So, really satisfying to see him get, zapped into zappiness. Don't really know that guy. Oh yeah, that's Vulture, S tier because they had Regan Thompson, Birdman, playing him. Birdman, the Phoenix Rises. 60 is the new 30, motherfucker! Scourge, Carl Urban, the Judge Dredd 2012 movie is awesome, so, B tier, and I remember, I was terrified of the dentist, like, I think I was 18 when I went to the dentist, and this film really helped me watching this film at the dentist really helped me get through it. Like I said, I was about 18, and there was an embarrassing incident, last time I was at the dentist, the dentist before, so, Scourge, thank you. Walt Goggins, even the people who say, Ant-Man and the Wasp is one of the more underwhelming, MCU movies, like, not bad in any sense, just underwhelming, especially considering, what it's, jammed in between, but even the people who think it's one of the better films agreed that this guy was just, like, a dull villain. He really wasn't that good a villain at all. Sorry. They were trying to make an entertaining villain, but it just didn't work, very shallow. Loki, S tier. This is my favorite character in the entire MCU. Yep, hence why I'm so glad he got his own series. Do I even need to say it? He was in 2 of the Avengers films. Tom Hiddleston stole every single scene he was in. S tier. He earned his own TV show. He's great in that show as well. The Grandmaster. I feel like he was I really don't think he contributed that much to the movie, but B tier because he was entertaining on his scenes, genuinely funny. And I feel like Taika Waititi just wanted to hire him to have Jeff Goldblum play a comic relief villain. And it's one of the funnier post-credit scenes in the movie, especially considering the post-credit scene for it. Ultron, I feel like a lot of people are disappointed that they turned him into a quippy villain, even though he's supposed to be one of the serious Marvel villains. But me, I really like how they had a philosophical robot to have the heroes fight. He's both an unstoppable juggernaut and also a philosopher, really what more of the MCU villains should have been. So he's a S tier villain. Wolfgang von Strucker, C tier. He appears at the end of Captain America's Winter Soldier's post-credit scene, building him up, and he's just literally knocked out at the end of at the beginning of Age of Ultron, and then killed off screen. I feel like not really that interesting. And I feel that maybe his comic book counterpart was more interesting, but ultimately he's literally there just to for there to be a cool opening. And lastly, Zola, he was, I love how he goes from looking this reluctant guy, Fun fact, that's the same guy that plays Dobby in the Harry Potter movies, and I love how he goes from this reluctant servant to Red Skull to being an actual, the mastermind and the lone survivor of Hydra that ends up rebuilding it from within. Really shows his character's, the power of Hydra, cut off one head, 2 more take its place. And it was a great way of, having a realistic version of his comic book counterpart. So yeah, my ranking for all of the MCU villains or whatever. See you guys next. See you on the Creature Trail.